Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this video we are going to create this responsive smart home website using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. By the end of this video you will know how to use BEM, that is block element modifier, how to use CSS flexbox and grid model to align elements on your web page, how to customize your website using CSS variables. So for example, we can just change our primary color in our source code and we are going to get a whole new theme for our website. Okay, and we are also going to make our website responsive. That means we are going to make them look good on tablets and then mobile phones as well. So let me quickly walk you through the finished project. So up top we have our nav bar, we have our nav items, we have home, about, testimonials, frequently asked questions, and then the contact section or the contact page. We have our logo, we have our login, and then our sign up button. Here on the main section we have our socials or our social media handles. So we can click this and it will open our social media handle in a new tab. Let's quickly go back. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. All right, so we have our main title here, we have our subtitle, and our hero image right here. All right, and notice when I scroll, we have this box shadow on the nav bar, and then we have this thin border as well. Here we have our call to action buttons to download our smart home app. Okay, so we can click that and it will bring us to the page where we can download the app. This is for Apple, or this is for iPhones, and this is for Android phones. All right, here is going to be our about section. That is our about section. We have our client section right here. We have our testimonial section with this cool hover effects. We have our frequently asked questions section as well, and we are going to use JavaScript to toggle this. The JavaScript is going to be just a few lines of code, probably about 30 to 40 lines of code. We are going to use CSS to style our website and HTML for our markup. All right, so the JavaScript is going to be only about 8 to 15 minutes of this whole tutorial. We have this download section. We have our call to action buttons right here, and we have our footer. Okay, so let me quickly go to the contact page. So all these handles are going to bring us to different sections of the website of the same web page, right? But this contact is going to be a different page. Okay, so let's click and then go to our contact. So here is our contact page, and this contact form actually works. Okay, so let's enter our name here, John Doe 2. This is going to be my email, phone number. Let me just enter anything random here, and then the message. This is going to be my message body, and I'm going to submit. Okay, I'm going to teach you how to do this as well in this tutorial. Notice how we are using this Google reCAPTCHA to filter bots from spamming us. All right, now let me check my email. Let me quickly check my email, and as you can see, we have our message right here. Okay, we have the message from our form. All right, so this is the name we entered, this is the name, this is the email we entered, this is the phone number we entered, and this is the random message I entered. Okay, so I'm going to teach you how to implement that form submission on your website so that people can message you straight from your website and you are going to receive that in your email. All right, so this is what we are going to create. Let me quickly show you the responsiveness. Okay, this is how our website is going to look on mobile phones. Now let's see how it is going to look on tablets. All right, so this is how our website will look on tablets. This is exactly how it is going to look on iPads and iPad Pros and every tablet at all. All right, so this is what we are going to create in this tutorial, and we have a lot to do, so let's get started. Now here in my projects folder, I only have this folder, that is the images folder. So these are the images that we are going to use in this tutorial. I'm going to leave a link for these images, okay, and the source. I'm going to leave a link for the images, the source code, and then a live demo of the website in the description, so check that out. All right, so I'm going to create my HTML file, so index.html. I'm going to create my style sheet. I'm going to name that style.css, and as I said, we are going to write some JavaScript. I'm going to name this main.js. Okay, so these are just the files and then the folder that we need for the project. So now I'm going to open this in my text editor. I'm going to use VS Code. Okay, so I'm going to open this in VS Code, and for VS Code I'm going to use two extensions. Okay, I'm going to use let's see, I'm going to use preview on web server, and this is going to help me preview my website on my in my default browser. Okay, and I'm going to use Emmet as well. Emmet actually comes with VS Code, so I don't have to install that. So here are my images. These are the images we are going to use, and these are the three files. So with Emmet, I'm just going to do exclamation tab, and I'm going to get this skeleton or boilerplate. Let's say responsive smart home website using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. All right, that is my title. Now let me link my style sheet. Okay, so that is the style.css or custom style sheet, whatever. So that is my style sheet. Now we are going to start with our navbar. Okay, so our navbar is going to be inside this nav tag. This is an HTML5 semantic tag, and inside of it I'm going to wrap everything inside a div with a class of container. Now this container class is going to be a general class, meaning most sections of the page is going to have this class as a direct child. Okay, so that we can have our website centered. Okay, so that we can have this margin on the right side and then the left side of the page. Right, so that is going to be the general container class, and I'm also going to give it a nav container. Okay, a nav container class, so it is going to be specific to the navbar. All right, so inside of this I'm going to have my nav items, and it's going to be on added list. So let me actually give this a class of nav items, and then we are going to have our list items. Okay, so the first one, which is going to be a link, of course, is going to go to the index HTML. That's going to be our home page. All right, the next one, let me actually duplicate this a few times. The next one is going to be the about section. Okay, so index HTML, that is going to be the same page, and it's going to be the about section of the home page. All right, so that is going to be the about. So what this does is when we reach the about section, okay, so when we reach the marker for the about section, we are going to give an ID of about. Okay, so that means when we click this inside the navbar, it should take us to that section with the ID of about. All right, so that is why we have this hashtag about. Now the next one is going to be the testimonials section. Okay, so it's going to say testimonials. It's also going to have the testimonials hashtag. Next, we are going to have the frequently asked questions. And lastly, we are going to have our contact. Okay, and this is actually going to be a separate page, a different page. Okay, so contact HTML. Let me actually create that right now. So contact.html. Okay, so this is going to be a separate page that we are going to create later on. All right, so that is for our nav items. We are going to have our logo as well, which is going to be a link, of course, so that we can click on it and it will take us to our home page. Now this logo, actually, let me give it a class of let's say nav logo, and it's just going to be an h3. Okay, next we are going to have our login and then sign up button. So let's see, let me give this a class of nav sign in sign up. Okay, and then we are going to have our login. That is going to be the first one. It's just going to say login and it is not going to go anywhere. Okay, and that is why I have this hash. The next is going to be our sign up, and this is actually going to have a class. It's going to have a class of btn. Okay, so we are going to have a style for this. Okay, so that it makes this a button. All right, so we are pretty much done with the nav bar. Now the last thing we are going to have here is the menu and then the close button for our responsive design. Okay, so let me quickly show you that. So here on mobile, notice we have this menu button, okay, or this beggar button right here, and we have the close as well. Okay, so let's grab these two and then put them inside of our nav bar. Now I'm going to use icon scout for this. Okay, so iconscout.com. Let me actually grab the CDN. Okay, so icon scout CDN. Let me grab that from here. So I'm just going to paste that in our head. So that is our icon scout CDN. All right, now let me go to the website and then grab those two icons real quick. So the first one is going to be the menu or the hamburger icon, this right here. I'm going to copy, and here let me actually put that inside a button tag. Let me give that an ID. So this is going to be menu btn. Let me paste that icon inside. Now let me actually just open this in our default browser. So by using the preview on web server, okay, preview on web server, you can just click and then launch on browser. Okay, and it is going to open this project inside your default browser. Now that is for this should be menu. Okay, menu btn. That is for the menu button. Now let's get the close button as well. So let me search close, and I'm going to use this. Okay, I'm going to use that one. Let me just duplicate this, change this ID to close btn, and I'm going to change the icon. Okay, I'm going to paste what I just copied, and that is pretty much all we need for our navbar. Okay, that is the markup for our navbar. Now let's proceed to the css and then give this some styling. Okay, now for the css, as I said earlier, we are going to use css variables. Okay, and just like in SAS, we can just initiate our variables. We can make them our root variables so that we can actually use them anywhere in the project. Okay, so this here I'm going to have some root variables. Okay, so the first variable I'm going to have is our primary colors. So let's see, our primary colors is going to be this blue. Okay, this blue that we have throughout the website, that is going to be my primary color. So I'm just going to name that color primary. Okay, and I'm going to have the value. So the value for this color is going to be a hash code of 1E5A FA. Okay, that is going to give me that blue color. Right, so to initiate a variable, a CSS variable, you need two hyphens, the name of the variable, a colon, and then the value. Okay, all right. So actually I'm just going to copy and then paste all the variables that we are going to use. Let me copy and paste that. So here we have the colors that we are going to use. We have color primary, we have primary variants, we have color white, we have light, black, and all that. All right, so notice we have some bottom section pattern. So there's going to be some pattern for sections, and then we have some container width. So this is going to be the width of the general container class that we have. Okay, so we are going to have this container class for various sections of the page. So this is going to be the width for desktop. This is going to be the width for tablets. So I just have these values. Okay, so whenever I come back or my website doesn't look exactly how I want, I can just change in this one value and then I'll have the result I need. All right, so let's proceed. Let me quickly show you something real quick. Notice how we have these bullets for the list items. We have these underlines for the anchor tags, that is the links and all that. We have some margins and then some paddings as well by default, so we are going to remove those as well. So here I'm just going to say everything or every element on the web page should have a margin of 0. Okay, we have, let's give it a padding. Everything should have a padding of 0 as well, an outline of 0, a border of 0, box sizing should be border box, and then let's remove the underlines. So text decoration should be none, and the list style, okay, so those bullets, list style should be none as well. Okay, so we will have a clean sheet. All right, so that removes everything, every default styling. Let me actually put this side by side. Okay, let's move on now. We are going to have that smooth scroll. So scroll behavior for the HTML is going to be smooth. Okay, and that is going to give us that smooth scroll. Now for the body, we could just start with the navbar. Okay, styling the navbar directly, but I want to have some general classes, okay, before we move on to the navbar, and that is going to make our lives very easier. The font family for the body is going to be Poppins. Okay, and I actually have Poppins on my system, so I can just do Poppins, but there's going to be deployed. Okay, we are going to upload our website. So here, let me grab Poppins from the Google Fonts, okay, so that I can import it into the project. So let me go to Google Fonts and I'm going to grab Poppins. Let's see, let's search Poppins. So there's Poppins. I'm going to grab the light. Actually, from the light, I'm just going to grab everything. Okay, up to about the bold section. I'm not really sure what we are actually going to use. Okay, so let me grab all that up to the bold. Okay, up to the let me continue. Let me grab everything actually, and here we can link it inside our head. Okay, inside our HTML head tag, we can just copy this and then paste it there, or we can import it, okay, into our style sheet. But I prefer the HTML, so I'm just going to copy this, go back to my HTML, and I'm going to paste this. Okay, and here we can use it. Okay, so here, down here, you can see font family Poppins sans serif. Okay, Poppins is a sans serif font, so let's just copy and then paste that, and we should have our Poppins fonts. Okay, so that is the font Poppins. Give everything a color of color dark. Okay, so that is the color dark is this color 575757. That is this color right here. So I'm using that variable here, right? I'm going to give everything a line height, that is the font's a line height of 1.7, and the background is going to be white. Okay, so variable color white, and that is also up top. Okay, and that is the FFF. Perfect. Now let's continue. As I said, our container class is going to be a general class, so let's give that a width of the container width. Okay, and that is also a variable, 84%. Okay, that is the container width, and the margin is going to be 0 auto. Okay, so that it can center everything horizontally. Okay, so that we have these margins, okay, on the left and then the right side. Perfect. Now let's continue. Let's proceed, and here I'm going to have some styling for our headers. So the H1, every H1 is going to have a font size of 5.6 rem. Now I'm going to use rem and percentages mostly in this video because of the responsive design that we want. Okay, so you are going to see me use rems, percentages, and then FRs, okay, or fractions. So here the line height for every H1 is going to be 1, and then the color is going to be color dark. Okay, color dark, color black actually. It's going to be the dark color right here, the black color, 00F 000F37. Okay, that is going to be the color for every H1. Now let's move on to the H2s. Okay, so every H2 is going to have a font size of 3 rem and a font weight of 500. Okay, let's give that a line height of 1 as well. That is going to be for every H2. Now for every H3, like our logo here, our logo is an H3, so every H3 is going to have a font size of 2 rem. So notice our logo increase in size, and then a font weight of 600. Okay, so see that take effect as well. Now we are going to have a lead class for some paragraph text. Okay, so for everything with a class of lead, we are going to have the width set to 63%. The font size is going to be 1.1 rem. The font weight is going to be 400, and then the line height is going to be 1.5. Okay, now let's give it a margin. So margin 1.5 rem for the top, auto for the left and right, and then 3 rem for the bottom. Okay, so that is going to be anything with a class of lead. Now every anchor tag or every link is going to color white. Okay, and you're going to see them vanish because they are going to be on the white background, but we are going to correct that real soon. All right, so the font weight is going to be 300 as well. Now let's move on, and then every image, okay, every image tag is going to be 100% of its parent width. Now anything with a class of btn, okay, is going to be a button. So let's display that inline block. Let's give that a padding of 1 rem for the top and bottom, and 2.3 rem for the left and right. Let's give that a background of color white, a color of color black, font weight 500, border 1 pixel, solid transparent. For now we're going to change the border color on hover. Okay, so that is why we have the border. All right, but it's going to be transparent by default. So on hover we are just going to change the border color, border radius of 0.4 rem, and then we are going to have a hover effect, as I said, and I want that to be smooth, so I'm going to give it some transition. Okay, nice. Some buttons are going to have another class of primary. Okay, so btn primary, and for those, let's give those a background of color black, and then let's give them a color of color white. Okay, and for the btn primary ones, sorry, let's say btn primary. We are going to have some hover effect as well. Okay, so here, you know what, these are not going to have hover effects. Okay, the btn are not going to have the hover effect, so let me actually just put this on the primary ones. Okay, so for those on hover, we are going to change the background to white. We can make them transparent since we have a white background, and then the color is going to be color black. And as I said, the border color, okay, is going to be, we have a border here, by default. So the border color, I can just even remove this and then put it right here. Okay, because this is where we are going to change the border color. So the border color here is going to be color black. Okay, so that is going to be for the primary buttons. Now let's move on quickly to avatars. Okay, so anything with a class of avatar, those are going to be images. Okay, user images. Those are going to have a width of 2.2 rem, a height of 2.2 rem as well, border radius of 50%, and then the overflow for those is going to be hidden. Okay, now the last thing we are going to do is the sections. Okay, so every section is an HTML5 semantic tag. So every section tag is going to have a maximum width of 100 viewport width, and viewport width is also a CSS unit. And then we are going to have a border, a padding bottom. Okay, we are going to have a padding bottom of bottom section padding. Okay, so that is going to be the style for every section tag. Now this is all done. These are the general classes that we need for this whole project. So let's move on to the nav bar. Okay, we are done with our general classes. Now let's move on to styling our nav bar. Let's target our nav tag, and we are going to give that a width of 100 viewport width, a height of 6 rem. Let me display grid. Okay, so that I can place items to the center. Okay, and that is going to place the direct child, that is the container. Notice we have a direct child of container, or the nav container. We are going to place that directly in the middle. All right, so that is place items to the center. Let me actually position this fixed. Okay, I want it to be fixed on the web page, no matter how far we scroll. It's going to be 0 from the top and 0 from the left. Let me give that a z index of 2 so that it sits on top of everything. Let's continue. Let me target the nav container. Okay, that is this should be container. That is the direct child. Nav container, I'm going to display grid. Let me display flex instead, and then justify content to be space between, and then I'm going to align items to the center. Okay, so we have this. Now I don't need this buttons. These are only going to be available on tablets and then mobile, so I'm just going to remove those. I'm going to display none. I'm going to remove them. All right, so we have these three direct children of the nav container to work with. All right, so moving on, let me target the nav items. Okay, and we give that a class of nav items. I'm just going to display flex and then give them a gap of 3 rem. Okay, so we have that side by side. Perfect. Let's move on. Then let's target the logo. Okay, so nav, did I give it a class of nav logo? I think I did. So that is going to be this nav logo. That is the link with the h3. I'm going to position that absolute, and I'm going to move it from the top 50%, from the left 50% as well. Let me translate. So negative 50 on the y-axis, negative 50 on the x-axis. So xy. Let me close that. All right, so we have that. And don't worry about anything crossing over. We are going to solve that real soon. And this is going to change when we reach the media query. This is going to look different. We are going to have it as a drop down when we reach the media queries, so you shouldn't worry about that. All right, so from there, let's proceed to our button, okay, or our login, and then the sign up. So that is with the class of nav sign in, sign up. Okay, and we are going to display that flex. I'm going to align items to the center, and I'm going to give that a gap of 3 rem. Okay, quickly let me change the background for the nav bar. Let me change the background to color primary. All right, so we have that primary background. Why did this change? I should have that blue color. What is happening? Let me see. All right, so let me quickly change this to the blue color. Okay, I think the hex code for the blue is 1E5AFA. Okay, that is going to give that blue color. And I think I commented something out. Okay, that is the color of the links, so I'm just going to uncomment that. So now we have our white color for every link. Now let's proceed with the navbar section. Let's get down with the navbar section. So here I'm going to resize our logo. Okay, our logo is too big, so I'm going to resize that, and I could just go back to the H3 here and then change the font size. But I want that style to be for every H3 apart from the nav logo. Okay, I want only the nav logo to have this style. So the H3 here is going to have a font size of 1.7 rem. And that is all we need for our navbar. Okay, that is all for our navbar. So as I said, we are going to have different style for tablets and then mobile phones. As you can see here, we have this same navbar, but on mobile phones we are going to have that drop down. Okay, and that is going to be when we get to the media queries section. Okay, but now let's finish up everything on the desktop version before we get to that part. Okay, so now we are done with the navbar section. Okay, we are done with styling our navbar on the desktop. So next, let's move on to the main section, which is going to be this section right here. Let me quickly show you. Let's move on to this main section, or the header section. Let me leave a comment. Now the header section, or the hero section, is going to be inside the header tag. This is an HTML5 semantic tag, and directly we are going to have a container. That's the general container class, and a header container as well. Okay, we are going to have our h1, so this is going to be on top. We break, and then we have this application as well. All right, so we are going to have a paragraph tag, so a p. I'm actually going to give this a class of lead. Okay, notice we styled the class of lead back in the style sheet. We had a class of lead. Okay, let me quickly show you that. This right here. So this style is going to take effect with this paragraph. Okay, and the paragraph is going to be this. All right, so after the paragraph, you are going to have the image, the hero image. We are going to have this image. Okay, so there's the h1, there's the paragraph. Now we are going to have the hero image. I'm going to put that in a class of header image. Now I'm going to have my image, so I'm going to go into my images folder and then get the hero image, and that is hero.png. I'm not going to have any alt text. After the hero image, we are going to have our call to action buttons. So I'm going to put those inside the class of CTA. So CTA, and notice I'm not doing header CTA. Then that is because we are also going to have the same style for this call to action section. Okay, this call to action buttons are going to be here in this section as well. So I'm just giving it a general class, okay, so that we can have the styles on that section as well. All right, so the first button is going to be the apple, okay, the apple button. Let me give this a class of btn primary, okay, so that we have that class that we styled inside of the style sheet. Remember, we had a class of btn primary, okay, so these styles are going to take effect. We have the btn class and then the btn primary class. All right, so if I save this, you should see some style. Okay, so this is going to be the button. Notice we don't have anything in yet, but we have our image here, we have our paragraph, and then we have our h1. Okay, so that is what we have so far. So for the apple, okay, for the iOS, we are going to have the logo, we are going to have this download on the, and then we are going to have this as well. Okay, so we are going to have the logo. Let me give that a class of logo. So I gave it a class of logo. And then we are going to have a span. The first one is going to be a small tag which is going to say download on the, and then we are going to have an h4 and it's going to say app store. So this is going to be the apple logo. So let's quickly get that from our images folder, and that is going to be the apple logo right here. Okay, there's not going to have any alt tag as well, so we should have our apple logo. Let's see. So we have it. Okay, this is going to be our button, but we are going to give it a different style, obviously. Now that's for the apple. Now we are going to have the same thing for the Android as well. So let's see. And actually, I want this to open. I want this link to open in a new tab. So I'm going to give that a target of underscore blank. Okay, and this is going to help us, or this is going to make our link open in a new tab. Now, as I said, this is going to be the Android one. So here I'm going to change the image to Android PNG, and then let's see what we have to do here. This is going to say get it on Google Play. All right, so that is for our buttons, and they should go to the Google Play. All right, so the last thing we are going to have is our socials. Okay, the last thing we are going to have is our socials, or our social media handles. So let's do that, and that is going to be outside of the CTA or the call to action. Okay, and they with a class of header socials, and we are going to have our links. The first one is going to be Facebook, so https facebook.com/our page. Let's do Apple because this is a fictional website anyway. The target is going to be blank. I want this to open in a new tab, and this is going to be an icon. Okay, so quickly let me go back to the icon scouts and then search Facebook. I'm going to use this, so let me copy, come back and then paste. Okay, let me save. Let's see if we have it. It's probably not showing because it's a link, so it's on a white background. Let me quickly change the background of the body just to make sure we have our icon. Let's see, let me make that black. Let's see whether we have it. Okay, so we have our Facebook icon and it is white on a white background. That's why it wasn't showing, but for now let me leave this black background so that we can add the rest of the icons. The next icon is going to be Instagram. So Instagram, and I'm going to use this. Let's see what we used. Yes, I'm going to use this. Okay, so let me go back, duplicate this. There's going to be Instagram. So Instagram / Apple. Okay, the next is going to be let's see. Now I can change this back, okay, to white. Icons are not going to be visible, but they are there. Okay, now the last thing I want to have here in the header section, or this main hero section, is going to be these decorators. Okay, so I don't actually know the name for those, but we are going to have this image and then this image. Okay, so that we have some details on our page. So let me go back, and then after the container, okay, outside of the container div, so let me show you. This is the end of the container div. So outside of that, we are going to have a div with a class of header. No, the first one is going to be decorator 1. Okay, the first one is going to be header decorator 1, and that's just going to be an image. So header decorator 1, let me grab that. No alt tag or alt attribute, no alt attribute. This is going to be header decorator 2. Okay, let me change this to 2, and that is all we need for the header section or the hero section. So that is all the markup. Now let's go back to our CSS and give this some styling real quick. Okay, so let's style our header section. Let me quickly give this a class of header title. Okay, now let's go back to our CSS. Now the header is going to have an image background. Okay, so the URL, we are going to go into our images folder and select our header bg. Okay, no repeats, top center 100 viewport width for the background size. Let's check that out, and we have this. All right, let me actually put this side by side so that we see what's going on. Now let me give that a max width of 100 viewport width and a text align of center. Okay, let me give that a padding bottom of bottom section padding. All right, so we have this. Now let's move on to the h1. Okay, so I just gave that a class of header title. Let me give that a padding top of 12 rem so that it is pushed down. Let me change the color to color white. Now let's move on to the p. So let me actually just, so color is obviously going to be, let me actually make that an RGBA of 255 for all, and then 0.8. Okay, so white with some transparency. That is why the alpha is 80%. Now let's move on to our header image. Okay, so let's see, did I gave this a class of lead, right? Give the paragraph a class of lead. Did I give that some margin? Let's see, I gave that a margin. Okay, so here let me actually just give that a margin bottom of 0. Okay, I don't want any margin bottom. Now for the header image, I'm going to give that a width of 92% and then a margin of 0 auto. Now let's move on to the call to action buttons. Okay, so let me scroll. So CTA, I'm going to display flex, justify content to the center, and then give them a gap of 2 rem. Now for the links inside of the CTA, I'm going to display flex, align items to the center, give them a gap of 1 rem, text align to the left. Let me change the font weight to 400. Okay, let me save. Let me change the background to be black. Okay, so here I'm just going to do 000. So we have that black background, and then the border radius is going to be 0.7 rem. Okay, let me give them a padding of 0.8 for the top and bottom, and then 1.6 for the left and right. Now the logo inside of the CTA, let me change that real quick. Notice or remember we gave them a class of logo. So this image has a class of logo, and this has a class of logo as well. So let's quickly change, or let's give them some styles. Let's give them a width of 2 rem. Okay, so now we have this. So CTA AH4. Okay, so the H4s, I'm going to give them a font weight of 500 and change the font size. Okay, the font size is going to be 1.4 rem. All right, now let's move on and then have some hover effect for the links. So CTA, going to have some hover effects here. All right, and then the color. Good. Now let's proceed and then let's see. Let's go straight to the socials. Okay, we have this, so let's move on to the socials, and then lastly we will come to this section. Let me actually just give them some background. So header socials, and give them a background of red. I want to position them absolute. Okay, let me move them 3 rem from the left and then 38% from the top. Okay, let me display flex. You're going to change the flex direction. Okay, flex direction is going to be column, and now let me give them a gap. Okay, a gap of 1.5 rem. Let me change the font size as well. Good. Now I can remove this background. Perfect. Now the last thing I want to do here is to position this. Where is the other one? Okay, so the source is going to be header decorator 2. Okay, let's see whether we have it. All right, we have it. Now that is what we are going to style. We are going to style the decorators. So the first one is going to be the circular one. This one, let's give that some styling. So header decorator 1, that is the class we gave it. Let's just position that absolute. Okay, so we have that, and then let me just copy this or duplicate it, change this to 2, and then give this some styling. Okay, so this is going to be 0 from the right, and then the margin top is going to be negative 24 rem. Okay, so I'm going to move it to the top, negative 24 rem. All right, so that is it. So that is all for the header section. Okay, that is all for the header section. Now let's move on to the about section. Okay, let's move on to this section right here. Now remember, we have to give this an ID of about. Okay, so that we can just click on the about here, so that we can just click this and it will bring us down to that section, okay, which is this about section. Now here I'm going to have an h2, actually an h1. Let me give that a class, okay, a class of about title, and then this is going to say about us. All right, so after this I'm going to have my container. We are not going to have any specific container class, we are just going to use this general container. And then inside the container we are going to have 3 subsections, okay, so we are going to have this, and then this, okay. So each of these is going to be inside an article tag, and for each article tag we are going to have 2 direct children. That is going to be the image section and then the text section, or this content section right here. So each of them is going to have those 2 subsections. So quickly I'm going to have that article. Let me actually give this class of about article, and then as I said, we are going to have the image. The first one is going to be the image, so let me give that a class of about image. Let me go into my images folder and then about one, okay. We are going to have the content, so let's see, we are going to give that a class of about content. Let's have an h2 here, and then let me actually give this a class as well, so about article title, okay, that is the class, and it's going to say smart homes smart service, or services rather. I'm going to have a paragraph here, paste that in, one article. Now we are going to have 3 of these, okay, so let me quickly duplicate this and then change the contents real quick. So this is the first one, this is the second one, and this is the third one. So here I'm going to change the image to the second image. This is going to be the third image, and for the second one I'm just going to swap this, okay. So for that, the image is going to come after the contents, okay. And that is all for this about section. That is all for the markup for the about section. Let me copy this comment, and this is going to be end of about. All right, so now let's head to our style sheet and give this some styling. All right, let's quickly see what we have from the markup. Okay, so this is what we have from the markup. This is the about section. Now let's style this. So, and I'm going to grab the about title, okay, that is the h1. Let me text align that to the center, give that a margin bottom of 5 frame. So we have that. Now let me quickly just go directly to the article, or the about article. I'm going to display grid, set the grid template columns to 1fr 1fr, okay. So we have this. Let me give them a gap of 5 frame so that we have some space between them. I'm going to align items to the center, that is vertical alignment. I'm going to align them to the center like that, and then margin top, okay, push them from each other 3 rem. All right, so we have some space. Now let me target this section, okay. Let me actually just style this for now. So let me just copy and then paste this, grab the title. I'm going to change the color to color black, and then margin bottom, give that a margin bottom of 1.5 frame, okay. So we have this. You know what, I should have a button, okay, for each of these. I should have a button. So let me go back to the markup. Let's see, and after the P, after the paragraph, we are going to have a button. Okay, so, and this is going to go nowhere, so I'm just going to do hash, and it's just going to say learn more. Okay, let me give that a class of btn primary. All right, so let me just copy and then paste that. Let's see, this should come here. Let me just copy this, or let me cut it and then paste that here. Okay, so we have the buttons there. Now let's go back to the CSS, and as you can see, we should have our button. Okay, so we have our button. We have the btn and then the btn primary classes styled already, so that is why we have the buttons perfect like that. I'm going to push the buttons down, okay, from the contents. I'm going to push them down from the content, so let me just grab them. And that is going to be about article and then the btn. Okay, I'm going to give them a margin top of 2.4 rem. All right, so we have our about section. The next section is going to be this, our client section. Okay, and that is going to be pretty simple as well. So let's go back to the markup. So section with the ID of clients. This doesn't have to have an ID, but we are going to use ID anyway. We are going to have our H1, okay, and then we are going to have our lead. So paragraph with a class of lead. Yeah. Now we are going to have our container. So a div with a class of container. That is a general container class, and we are going to have our clients container as well. Okay, so inside of this, we are going to have div with images. So the first one is going to be a div with an image, and that is going to be our first logo or our first client logo. Let's see, the source of the image is going to be inside our images folder. We are going to get our clients, so that is the first logo. Let's see what we have. So we have it. Okay, we have the first one. Now I'm just going to duplicate this how many times? I think 7 times, and then change the images. Okay, so this is going to be client 3, and that is all for our clients section. Now let's go back. Actually, let me just let me leave the comments. Okay, now let's go to our style sheet. Let me copy this comment here. Before then, let's see what we have. Okay, so these are the logos that we have. Okay, now let's give this some style. I'm going to text align to the center. Okay, let's see what we have. So we have our text centered. Let me put this side by side. All right, now let me get the client's container. Okay, let me get the container, and then I'm going to display grid. The grid template columns is going to be 1FR 4 times. Okay, so we have this, and then I'm going to give a 2 rem gap between them. For us to see what is going on, let me just let me grab the direct divs and give them a background. Let's do color light, and that is a light gray, and you can see the logos are not exactly in the middle, okay, of the divs. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is display this to be grid as well, so that I can place items to the center. Okay, so now we have them centered, but I want to have a fixed height for the divs. Okay, so let me give them a height of 8 rem, and then let's see, let me give them some padding as well, and that should be good, right? But I want to have some hover effects. Okay, so on hover, I just want to change the background to color white. Now the hover is too sharp, so I'm going to have some transition. Good. So that should be good, and that's all for this client section. Now let's move on to the next section, which is going to be our testimonial section. Let's move on to this section right here. Let's go to our markup section with the ID of testimonials. All right, so that we can just click inside the, we can just click the, so that we can just click this, okay, and it'll bring us to the testimonial section. Let me show you. Let me save this. So when we click this, it should bring us to the testimonial section. All right, so let's go back, and then here we are going to have our h1. All right, and we are going to have our paragraph. Okay, let's give that a class of lead, and the paragraph is going to be this. So let me just copy. All right, so we have that. We are going to, just like the about section, we are going to have some articles. Okay, but before then, let's put everything inside a container. We have the general container class. We are going to have testimonials container as well. Okay, the first article or the first testimonial is going to have a class of testimonial. That is going to be the first one, and for every testimonial we are going to have a paragraph of what the testimonial actually says. Next, you are going to have the avatar of the person or the client. So let's say, let's give that a class of testimonial client. So this is going to have the avatar and then the name of the person. Okay, so here we are going to have the avatar. Let's go into our images folder and then grab the first avatar that we have, testimonial work. I don't know if that even makes sense, but you get the idea. It's going to be the name of the person, and then in small tag we are going to have the work. Okay, the work the person does. All right, so this is for one testimonial. Okay, so let's see what we have. So we have this, and we have this style. Okay, we have the avatar style already because we've already done that in the general classes. Okay, let's see right here. So these are the styles that we have for this avatar right here. Okay, now let's see, let me go back to the markup, and then I'm going to duplicate this a few times. We are going to have 4 testimonials, so here I'm going to duplicate that 3 times. All right, so these are the various testimonials that we have. I just changed the names, the images, and the work that they do, the clients. So here we have the different testimonials that we have here in the markup. So let's go to our CSS. Let me copy one of these comments, paste it, and then change this to testimonials. Let me text align the H1 to the center, and here let me grab the testimonials container. Okay, I'm going to display grid, and the grid template columns is going to be 1FR 1FR. Okay, so 50% on the left. Let's see. Oh, this should be testimonials container. Okay, so 50 50. of 1.2 rem. Now let's move on to each testimonial. So each article has a class of testimonial, right? So here we are going to display flex direction is going to be column, and I'm going to give them a gap of 1.4 rem. Okay, so we have that. Let me give them a background of color light, and then a padding of 3 rem. So that's what we have. Now let's change the font size. Okay, I'm going to decrease the font size here. Let me give it a border as well. So border 1 pixel solid transparent. Now the border color is going to change on hover. Okay, so let's have some hover effects for the testimonial. So on hover here, I want to change the background to color white, and I want to have the border color set to color primary. So let's try that. So notice on hover we have the background white, and then the border color is the primary color. Now I want the color of the text as well to be primary, and I want to have a box shadow as well. So the box shadow is going to be 0 on the x-axis, 2 rem on the y-axis, 2 rem for the blur, and then it's going to be the color primary variant. Okay, it's going to be the color primary variant. So we have this. I want the z index to be 1. Okay, I want every element we hover to be on top. Good. Now this too sharp, so I'm going to have a transition here. Okay, so our hover effect is smooth now. All right, so that is all for this testimonial section. Actually, you know what, let me have some styles for the client section. Okay, let me display flex, and then let me give some gap. Let me do 1 rem. Okay, so we have that. So that is all for the testimonial section. Now let's move on to the frequently asked questions section. Okay, the frequently asked questions section. Let's move on to that. All right, so inside of this we are going to have our h1, our container, the general container, and then our frequently asked questions container as well. And we are going to have everything, or each frequently asked question, in an article tag. Okay, so article with a class of frequently asked question. For each frequently asked question, we are going to have this icon and then the question itself. Okay, so let's first have our icon. Okay, and that is going to be inside a span, and we are going to give that a class of frequently asked question icon. Okay, and the icon is going to be the plus icon. So let me just grab that from here, paste it in, and then we are going to have the question and then the answer as well. Okay, so that is going to be inside a div with a class of frequently asked question answer. Okay, that is going to be the class for that. The question is going to be inside an h4. Okay, and that is going to have a class of frequently asked question. So this is going to be the question, and the answer is going to be inside a paragraph, so a p tag with a class of frequently asked question answer. Okay, so this is going to be the answer. Let me just copy this. So this is going to be the answer to the question. I know this doesn't make sense, but obviously if you are creating a real website with this should be the actual answer to that question. All right, so this is all for a frequently asked question, and we are going to have a couple of these. Okay, we are going to have multiple frequently asked questions. So let's see, I'm just going to duplicate this. I'm going to duplicate that a few times. Let's see what we have. All right, so we have some frequently asked questions, and that's all we need. So let's go to our style sheet. Let me copy this comment here. There's going to be our frequently asked questions. So let me give it a margin bottom of 4 rem. Okay, that is the H1. Let's put this side by side. Let's grab the container. Okay, let's grab the container and then give it a width of 44%. Okay, let me display flex. Going to change the flex direction to column and then give it a gap of 1 rem. All right, now let's target each frequently asked question. Give it a background of color light, pattern of 2 rem. Let me display flex. Okay, give it a gap of 1 rem. Border 1 pixel solid color white. Actually, let me do DDD. Okay, so we have this. Let's see. I want the cursor to be pointer. Okay, I want this to look clickable. So the cursor is going to be pointer, and that should be all. Let's see what we can do down here. So for the frequently asked question, for each frequently asked question, we are going to have a hover effect. So for the hover, we are going to change the border color, the primary color, and the font. Or what can I do here? Just like we did with the testimonial section or testimonials, the color here is going to be the color primary. Okay, so on hover we should have that. Cool. Frequently asked question icon. Let's target the eye. Here we are going to increase the font size to 1.4 rem, and then the font width is going to be 200. Okay, that is the icon. Now for the questions, okay, the H4s question, the font size here is going to be 1.2 rem, and then the font weight is going to be 500. Okay, so we have that. That is for the H4s. And then the answer, okay, frequently asked question answer. The answer, we are going to push it down from the question. So margin top is going to be 1 rem. By default, we shouldn't have the answers showing. Okay, so for now I'm going to display none for the answers. So we are going to have something like this, and then when we click on it, we want to have the answers show. So let's see what we can do here. This first article or the first frequently asked question is also going to have a class of open. Okay, and that is what we are going to use later on in the JavaScript, so that when we click, we are going to have that style. So for every frequently asked question with the open class, we are going to have some styles. Okay, so frequently asked question with another class of open, we are going to have the border color set to the color primary. Okay, the color itself is going to be color primary as well, and we are going to give it a box shadow of 0 to rem, 2 rem, color primary variant, and we want the z index to be 1. So notice we gave our first one the open class, right? That is why we have that style. And for the open class, we want the answer to show. Okay, so let me just copy this. The answer inside the open class, we want that to be displayed block. Okay, so later on in the JavaScript, we are going to add an event listener on each of these. So when we click, we are going to add that open class. And one thing, the open class should have this icon changed as well. Okay, it should have the minus icon. So let me go back and get the minus icon, and I'm going to change the plus icon here. Okay, so this should be the minus icon. So any later on in the JavaScript, you are going to say any class, any frequently asked question with the open class should have the minus icon. Okay, so that is what we are going to do later on in the JavaScript. Okay, so let me quickly show you that. So notice we have the plus icon here, but when I click, we are going to have that minus icon. Okay, so we are going to do that in the JavaScript. All right, so that is all for the frequently asked questions for now. So let's move on to the next section, which is going to be this section right here, this download section right here. All right, let's quickly move on to that. Let me grab this comment, paste it in. So this is going to be end of frequently asked questions. Let me give this an ID of download app. Now we are going to have a container as well, and another container of download app container. Now inside of this, we are going to have two divs. Okay, the first one is going to have a class of download app content, and the next is going to be an image. Okay, so let me show you real quick from the finished project. So we are going to have this content here, and then we are going to have this as well. Okay, and this is going to be the image. Okay, so here I'm going to have the download app image. So let me get that image real quick from the images folder, and that is going to be the app png. Good. Now this content is going to have an h1. After the h1, we are going to have a paragraph, and after this we are going to have our call to action buttons, which are going to be these two download buttons right here. So let me go back to our header and grab the CTA. Okay, I'm going to grab the call to action and then paste it in here. So after the paragraph, we are going to have that. All right, now that is all for this download section. Let me copy this comment and then paste it in here. So this is going to be the end of the download app section. Let's give this some styling. Okay, so I'm going to copy that comment, paste it in here, and this is going to be the download app section, and this is going to be very simple. So let's directly grab container. Okay, let's grab the container. Let me put this side by side. Let me actually show you what we have so far from the markup. Okay, so this is what we have from the markup. All right, so let's put this side by side so that we see what's going on. So here I'm going to display grid. Okay, and I'm going to change the grid template columns to 1FR 1FR. Let me align items to the center. Let me make this 40% and then this 60%. Okay, I want the image to be bigger. So let's see. Yeah, this looks good. Content, I'm going to display flex. is going to be column, and then the gap is going to be 2 rem. Now let me get the title or the H1. Now for the CTA, this call to action, remember we gave it a display of flex, right? So here I'm going to justify content to be start. Okay, so let's see. So it's justified to the left. And then what else can I do here? Let me give it a margin top of 2 rem. Okay, so we have this. You know what? Let me go back and then change this to 1FR, 1FR. It doesn't look good to me, so yeah, this should be good. So 1FR, 1FR. What is wrong? I think our image for the call to action looks pretty weird. So let me go back to the call to action style that we have in the header section. Okay, so the call to action, let's see. I should change that image. Okay, so that should be the Android. Let me go back to, okay, so we should use this. Okay, we should use this icon instead. So let me delete this one, go back here, and then use that. Let me use this icon in the so this should be this image. Okay, let's see whether that works. Okay, so we have that image. Now let's go to the header section as well. So we should replace this. Let me go to the header section and replace this. Okay, good. Now notice our call to action is now justified to the start here as well. So let's go back to this and then just copy this. Okay, let's be specific here. So this is going to be the download app CTA. Perfect. So that is all for this section. That is all for this download app section. Okay, the next section is going to be this subscribe section, and then we'll move on to the last section, which is going to be this footer section. All right, so let's move on to the subscribe section. Let's give this an ID of subscribe. Let's have our container class and our subscribe container as well. And then inside here, we are going to have our subscribe text that is going to have an H2 and a paragraph as well. So a P tag, a button. Okay, so this is not going to go anywhere. Let's give it a class of BTN and another class of subscribe action. Okay, or subscribe BTN. All right, so let's see. All right, so that is all for this subscribe section. Now let me leave a comment. Now let's head to the style sheet and then give this some styling. And let's see what we have from the markup. All right, so this is what we have from the subscribe markup, right? So here, let's see. This subscribe section is going to be very simple. Let's grab the container. Okay, so subscribe container. Let's give that a background of the primary Let's give that a color of white. Let's display flex and then align items to the center. And we have this. Let's give this a pattern of 4 rem and a height. Let me give it a fixed height of 20 rem. Let me give this a border radius of 2 rem. Border radius of 2 rem. Okay, so we have rounded corners. Now let me target this section. Okay, that is the subscribe text. Let me see. Let me actually just maximize this and see what we have. Okay, so you see this going all the way to this side. I don't want that, so I'm going to get the subscribe text and then the paragraph, and here I'm going to give it a margin top so that it's pushed from the edge to, so a margin top of 1.4 rem, and then I'm going to give it a width of 80%. Okay, so it's going to be 80% of its parent, and we have it. Okay, so that is all for this subscribe section. Now let's move on to the last part of the desktop version. That is going to be the footer section. This section right here. Let's move on to that real quick and then let's get done with this. Now for this footer section, we are going to have everything inside this footer tag. That is an HTML5 semantic tag. We can actually remove this class since this tag is unique enough. All right, so inside this we are going to have a direct div with a class of container. That is going to be the general class, and we are going to have a footer container as well. And inside this footer container we are going to have 4 direct children. Okay, we are going to have f1, f2, f3. So this is going to be f1, f2, f3, and then f4. So we are going to have 4 subsections inside the footer container. All right, so that is going to be this. So we have f1, we have f2, we have f3, and then we have f4. Okay, so inside the f1 we are going to have our logo. So we are going to have this logo right here. We are going to have this paragraph. Inside the f2 we are going to have this h4, and that is going to have the permalinks. So the permalinks is going to have the links just as in the nav items. Just like in the nav items, we are going to have the links here. And then in the h3 we are going to have some links for privacy and all that. These pages won't be created, but you know, actual website has it, so that is a cool thing to have. And then the f4 is going to have our contacts. Okay, so we are going to have our contacts here and then our socials as well. All right, so the last thing that we are going to have is the copyright section. Okay, so we are going to have a div with a class of copyright, and then in small tag we are going to have this inside the copyright section right here. So this is how our footer is going to be. Okay, so this is all for our footer section. Let me actually save and show you. Okay, so this is for the footer section, and some items are not showing because they are white on a white background. Okay, but we are going to style this, so let's head to the CSS and give this some styling. Okay, now I want to make some adjustments back here in the markup. So as I said, this footer class, I'm just going to remove it. We are just going to use the tag, and let's see, this logo div, I'm going to remove that and then put the class on this. Okay, so the class here is going to be logo. Let's come back, and I'm going to copy this comment, paste it, change the text to footer, and let's give this some styling. Okay, so the footer tag, I'm going to give that a background of the primary background. Okay, let's save. Let me put this side by side so that we know what's going on. I'm going to give it a pattern top of 5 rem, and a font size of 0.9 rem. Okay, the font size here is going to be reduced to 0.9 rem. Let me give it a color. This color is going to be an RGBA. It's going to be white with some transparency. All right, now let's move on to the footer container, and that is a class. So footer container, I'm going to display grid. Set the grid template columns to repeat 4 times 1FR. So we have this. You can see it is coming together already. I'm going to justify content to be spaced between, and then give them a gap of 5 rem. All right, so we have that. Now let's move on to, you know what, every direct div of the container. Okay, so that is the F1 to F4. So every direct div of the container, I want to style the H force. Okay, the heading force, I want to give them a margin bottom of 1.6 rem, and then a color of white. Okay, so this is going to be pure white. There is some difference there. Now I want to select the logo. So let me actually change this class to footer logo so that I can select it directly. So the logo here, I'm going to give that a width of 6 rem. Or you know what, let me change the font size. Okay, so it's inside an H3. So here I'm just going to change the font size. I remember we gave this one up here, we gave that a font size of 1.7 rem. All right, now let's move on to the paragraph. Okay, this paragraph right here, let's move on to that. So footer 1 paragraph. Okay, the paragraph of 1 rem, 0 on the left and right, and then 2 rem for the bottom, width of 20 rem. Now let's move on to the subscribe. So footer subscribe, the background is going to be transparent. It's going to have a border of 1 pixel solid color light. I'm going to display flex, align items to the center, justify content to be spaced between. Height is going to be 3 rem, and then give it a width of 80% its parent width. All right, so we have that. Looks weird, but let's move on and then style that real quick. So let me grab this and then target the input. So the input is going to have a background of transparent as well. The color is going to be let's see, the color is going to be color white, and then the margin left is going to be 1 rem. Okay, let's give it a margin left of 1 rem. Good. Now let's style the placeholder. Notice the text or the placeholder text is not very visible. So let me grab this again and then target the input placeholder. Okay, the placeholder here, I'm going to change the color to color light, so now it is visible. Now let's move on and then style the button. Okay, so this button right here, so footer subscribe button, the button is going to have a background of color white. The color is going to be, or the text color is going to be color black. Transition, let's give it a transition of all 300 milliseconds ease, a width of 3 rem, a height of 100%, and font size is going to be 1.2 rem. Oh, this should be 2 underscores. Okay, let's move on. From the button, we are going to have some hover effects. Okay, that is why we have this transition. So here I'm going to copy this, and then on hover, I want to have the background set to color light. I want to have the color, that's the text color, set to color primary, and then the cursor is going to be pointer. Now for every li, okay, so every list item, we are going to have a margin bottom of 1 rem, we want the color to be set to color white, and then the text decoration should be underlined. For the footer 4 paragraph, that is this paragraph right here, let me copy this, paste. So the footer 4 paragraph, let's give that a margin bottom of 1.6 rem. Okay, now let's target the socials. So the footer socials, let's display flex, let's give them a gap of 1 rem and a font size of 1.4 rem. All right, so that is that. Let's style this copyright. Okay, so let's do that real quick. So a class of copyright, and once the text align to the center, margin top of 4 rem, padding of 1.2 rem, color, the color is going to be color white, and then the border top is going to be 1 pixel solid, and it's going to have the color lights. Okay, good. All right, so we have our copyright here. Now I want us to end this here, okay, for the desktop version. Okay, so in the next video we are going to continue and then finish with the media queries, and we are going to add all the other functionalities. Okay, we are going to add all the other functionalities that we have in the completed project right here. So if you haven't already, please subscribe and then stay tuned for the next video. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.